The very first movie from director Robert Rodriguez is wandering back into town. Before he made Machete or Sin City, Robert Rodriguez showed the world what he could do by creating a Mexican action movie called El Mariachi with just $7,000 of his own money. Now Sony Pictures Television has announced that it's producing a TV series based on the film. Like the original, it will focus on a young mariachi musician who is mistaken for an assassin by a powerful Mexican drug cartel. He's reluctantly forced to fight for his life and eventually becomes a deadly killer for real. This isn't the first time El Mariachi has been adapted. Rodriguez's own 1995 film, Desperado, was a follow-up to the original. That film spawned a sequel titled Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Another Robert Rodriguez movie, the vampire thriller From Dusk Till Dawn, is also getting a television adaptation. If you're hungrier than Jabba for a new Star Wars game, we've got some good news for you. Disney has announced Star Wars Force Collection, a virtual card battling game coming to iOS and Android devices. Players will be able to collect and command hundreds of characters and vehicles from the galaxy far, far away in turn-based card battles. You'll be able to fight for the light or dark side of the Force depending on your actions. Star Wars Force Collection will launch on September 4th. The quickest draw from the Old West may be taking on the deadliest marksman in American history. Old West cowboy and Oscar-winning film director Clint Eastwood is rumored to be directing the new military drama American Sniper. It's set to star the A-Team's Bradley Cooper as real-life sniper Chris Kyle, the deadliest marksman in American history. He racked up 160 confirmed kills during the Iraq War before being murdered at a Texas shooting range earlier this year. The film will chronicle his humble beginnings in the U.S. military all the way up to his entry into the top-secret world of special ops. Lincoln director Steven Spielberg was originally set to helm the film before going AWOL last month. There's no word yet on when American Sniper will begin shooting. And speaking about military dramas, the first intel about Active Valor 2 has come in. The original film was released last year and offered a gritty and realistic look at a team of U.S. Navy SEALs out to stop terrorists. Now it looks like the sequel will show audiences something a little different. Deadline reports that Active Valor 2 will focus on an elite squad of SWAT police officers, which means the story will likely take place entirely inside the United States. The first film used real-life soldiers instead of actors, and it remains to be seen if the sequel will do something similar. The Marine Homefront director Scott Weiper is set to helm. Active Valor is also getting a TV show, but it's still in the early stages of development. Director James Wan is exploring familiar territory with Insidious Chapter 2. Following the success of the first Insidious film and his recent blockbuster The Conjuring, James Wan will give audiences more ghostly scares with Chapter 2. This is the first time he's worked on a sequel, and he and co-writer Lee Wannell wanted to go further into the characters and their backstories, especially after the cliffhanger finale of the first movie.
I've never directed a sequel before. This is my first sequel, so it's kind of challenging but fun at the same time. So Lee and I started thinking how cool it would be to have Insidious 2 visits Insidious 1 in this sort of weird timeline kind of way, you know, where you saw elements of the movie in the first one, but then in number 2, you see it again, but from a different perspective. We love stuff like that.
Insidious Chapter 2 will haunt movie houses on Friday, September 13th. There probably won't be any ghosts in James Wan's next movie. He's set to helm the 7th Fast and Furious film, which will hit the streets next year. The next game in the long-running Yakuza series might be taking players back in time. Sega has announced Yakuza Restoration. Few details are known, but unlike its present-day predecessors, the new game is expected to take place in the 19th century during Japan's Meiji Restoration period. This was when the country became modernized, and it also saw the rise of the Yakuza organized crime underworld. There's no word yet on when Yakuza Restoration will be released, but once it launches in Japan, expected to find its way to North America about a year later. Sega hasn't said what consoles it's being developed for, although the PS4 seems likely.